When your most lethal operative gets brainwashed and turned against you, how do you fight someone who knows all your secrets? G.I. Joe faces their darkest hour as Dark Snake Eyes becomes their deadliest enemy, forcing unlikely alliances that will shake the very foundation of the team.
Hi, I'm Thorne Bishop, and you're watching Top Secret Inc., your go-to source for deep dive intelligence briefings on the most classified comic operations. Today, we're declassifying G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero Volume 2, the trade paperback that collects issues 161 through to 165 of Larry Hama's legendary continuation of the Marvel run. This isn't just another mission report. This is the operation where everything changes. The Joes are back in their classic Utah base, The Pit, but they're facing the most personal threat yet. When your own brother-in-arms becomes your greatest enemy, when the silent guardian becomes the predator hunting you, that's when you discover what real heroism looks like. We're about to analyze 5 issues that showcase why this series remains the gold standard for military action comics.
Before we dive deeper into the mission, let's pull the files on the key players. Heroes, villains, rogues, and wildcard operatives. This is the subject profiles. Duke, First Sergeant, First Class. The field commander who keeps his cool under fire and leads from the front, Duke represents the backbone of G.I. Joe leadership. He's the guy who makes the tough calls when the mission goes sideways and everyone's looking for answers. Lady J, Intelligence Operative Extraordinaire. A covert ops specialist with deadly skills and sharper intellect, she's the perfect blend of brains and combat prowess. When the Baroness needs taking down, Lady J proves why she's one of the team's most valuable assets. Scarlet, counterintelligence expert. The team's crossbow-wielding strategist who can read a battlefield like a chess master reads the board. Her tactical mind and unwavering loyalty make her indispensable when the Joes need both brains and heart. Cobra commander, that's ruthless leader of Cobra. The megalomaniacal mastermind whose schemes never end, even when his own organization turns against him. He's the serpent who always has another plot coiled and ready to strike. Destro, arms dealer supreme. The steel-masked weapons manufacturer who plays all sides for profit and power. Destro operates with a twisted sense of honor. His technology and resources make him one of Cobra's most dangerous assets. Zartan, master of disguise. The mercenary shapeshifter who can become anyone, anywhere, anytime, making him the ultimate infiltration weapon. His loyalty goes to the highest bidder, and his skills make him nearly impossible to track. Storm Shadow, the White Shadow. Once an enemy, now walking the path of redemption, Storm Shadow brings his legendary ninja skills to aid the Joes. His complex relationship with Snake Eyes adds layers of tension to every mission. Snake Eyes, the silent death. The mute commando whose reputation speaks louder than words ever could, he's the Joe team's ultimate weapon. But when that weapon gets turned against you, survival becomes the only objective. The Baroness, Cobra's deadly intelligence officer, Destro's lover, and Cobra's most sophisticated operative, she combines European elegance with lethal efficiency. Her capture becomes a pivotal moment that shifts the entire power dynamic.
So the first issue starts off with Lady J, gung-ho, and clutch, cruising through what looks like the aftermath of a really bad day in the USA. I'm talking about an abandoned town that makes Detroit look like Beverly Hills. Buildings boarded up, cars stripped for parts. Basically, if this place had a welcome sign, it would probably say, "Welcome to Shitsville. Population, why are you even here?" But here's the kicker. They're hunting for their teammate Chuckles, who's been snatched up by Cobra. And where do they find evidence of Cobra? In the basement of a jumbo video rental store. Down in this makeshift Cobra torture chamber, we got Chuckles tied to a chair getting the full interrogation treatment. The Vipers are trying to get information out of him, but Chuckles isn't having it. So what do these criminal masterminds do? They break out the wet phone book, because nothing says advanced military organization quite like resorting to mob movie cliches from the 1970s. Meanwhile, outside this cinematic house of horrors, our heroes spot 2 Cobra vehicles and make the tactical decision that any reasonable person would make when outnumbered and outgunned. They decide to charge headfirst into certain doom. Because that's what heroes do, right? They drive right into parking lots with guns a-blazing like they're auditioning for the most expensive action movie ever made. The Cobra tank responds with what you'd expect from a tank: heavy firepower that could possibly level a city block. Lady J and Gung Ho bail out of the Jeep to take a fight on foot, which is either incredibly brave or just really stupid. I'm kind of leaning towards both on this one. But here's where Lady J shows why she's just not another pretty face with a code name. She whips out her power lance and takes a shot at the Cobra Jeep. And let me tell you, this isn't just your average rocket launcher. This thing drives right through the dashboard and just sits there like it's waiting for someone to ask it to dance. Back at the video store of Doom, the Vipers figure out that water torture just isn't getting anywhere with Chuckles. So they decide to upgrade to the classic car battery and alligator clips combo. Because if you're gonna go torture someone, you might as well go full cartoon villain with it. But here's the beautiful thing about Lady J's power lance. It's got a 3-second fuse on it, and she's just standing there laughing because she knows what's coming. The Cobra guys are probably thinking, hey, this thing didn't explode, baby. It's like, our lucky day. But no, bang. The Jeep gets obliterated and Lady J is having like the time of her life. Gung Ho kicks down the front door like he's the world's most patriotic battering ram, and these two storm in the building like they're late for the world's most important wedding. Down in the basement, Chuckles decides he's had enough shock therapy and returns the favor by driving his foot about 2 feet into the Viper's crotch. Because sometimes the most effective military tactic is a good old-fashioned kick in the nuts. He follows up with a headbutt that drops a guy like a sack of potatoes, just in time for Gung Ho to show up and blast the other Viper with his machine gun. Outside, Clutch is having his own action movie moment, chasing down a Cobra tank with no one manning the gun turret. So what does he do? He turns onto his hands-free laser sighting system like he's playing the world's dangerous video game and blows the tank to bits. Back in the basement, Lady J races to cut Chuckles loose. But the Viper who headbutted him earlier decides to get back up. Chuckles kicks him right in the head again, because if something's worth doing once, it's definitely worth doing twice. Then in a move that would make any action hero proud, Chuckles grabs Lady J's sidearm, spins around and double taps the Viper right in the head. Lady J, being the responsible military officer she is, tells Chuckles she's gonna have to turn him in for shooting an unarmed man. But Chuckles flips over the body to reveal that the Viper had a pistol and was about to shoot both of them. He tosses the loaded firearm to Lady J and delivers the line of the century, "You're welcome." Classic Chuckles, saving lives and just being sarcastic as hell about it. 6 hours later, we get to a plane landing at Joe Base in the desert, and the 4 heroes emerge like they just got back from the world's most dangerous vacation. Chuckles hops off the Jeep by himself because apparently he's got places to be and people to see. Inside, Sergeant Iron Knife is waiting for the password from Chuckles so he can get access to the underground base. Now we catch up to Lady J, Gung Ho, and Clutch, who are discussing how they would never have found Chuckles without the intel from Storm Shadow. And now they're joking that it's Chuckles' job to interrogate Storm Shadow. Talk about job security through irony here. Mainframe opens a secret underground hangar for the plane. Stalker and Duke call Chuckles over from the elevator for a conversation about whether anyone has interrogated Storm Shadow yet. Okay, here we got a big spoiler alert. That's a negative. He's been in lockdown this entire time. And they needed Chuckles to find out if Storm Shadow really is a double agent or if he legitimately wants to help the Joes. The 3 of them are walking down a hallway when Chuckles puts his hand on a hand scanner to open up the door. At the same time, he gets warned not to stand too close by the Joes. The door slides open, and there's Scarlet with an assault rifle pointed right at Chuckles' head. Apparently, they have some bad history together, and Scarlet is not in a very forgiving mood at this moment. She points the gun to the ground and starts ripping Chuckle a new one, telling him he better find out all the information he can to help get Snake Eyes back. Duke has to pull Scarlet away before she does something she'll regret later. They open a large vault door after passing through more security, only to find an empty cell. Storm Shadow has somehow escaped. The security alarms go off, and the Joes are running through the base with search dogs, checking all the CCTV cameras. And where do they find him? In the mess hall, sitting at a table, grabbing a little snack, because I guess he wasn't too happy with the room service. This guy broke out of a maximum security cell to get better food options. Security surrounds Storm Shadow with guns pointed at him in every direction. One of the Joes tells him to give up because you'll never make it past the blast doors. Storm Shadow looks up at one of the CCTV cameras and mentions that, hey, I already did. And that's how he managed to grab the remote trigger for a self-destruct unit of this facility. At this point, Storm Shadow is basically making all the Joes look like amateur hour here. He could have just set the timer on the bomb and walked away, but instead he's sitting there eating snacks and holding the entire base hostage with a remote control. Now we jump to the Cobra Silent Castle, where we have Cobra Commander, Destro, Snake Eyes, Mindbender, and the absolutely stunning Baroness. They're looking for satellite footage of the Joe Desert base, having identified that there's an underground plane hangar and it's a major facility for the Joes. They have no way of getting in there. But then the Baroness mentions we can't, but Snake Eyes can. And as a reminder for those who haven't read Volume 1 yet, Snake Eyes has had his mind wiped by Cobra and is currently working for them, not the Joes. Like, talk about the ultimate inside job here. We cut to a scene where the Baroness is flying a jumbo jet. She and Destro are talking about Billy. That'll be Cobra Commander's son, who the Baroness is currently having an affair with. Destro is still obviously jealous, and really, who can blame him? Destro mentions that Billy's speech has become erratic and his body postures changed due to the excessive using of the mind-wiping machine voluntarily on himself. The plane lands, and they offload an 18-wheeler with Billy at the wheel and Snake Eyes riding shotgun. Billy tells Snake Eyes when he gets his ultimate revenge that Snake Eyes will be the one to pull the trigger. Billy also mentions that he'll need to make some special adjustments to the brainwave scanner to help learn about Snake Eyes' past and who he actually is. Cobra Commander's pissed because Zartan just took off on his motorbike after the plane landed. Apparently he was supposed to lead the motorcade, but Zartan had other plans. Destro claps back by telling Cobra Commander that Zartan left to make contact with the Dreadnoks. Now we jump back to a little town called Pine Barrens, the same destroyed town where they rescued Chuckles. The Dreadnoks are hiding out in an abandoned gas station when one of them notices a police officer on a motorbike pulling up to the gas pumps. The cop enters the gas station, and now we get a 4-on-1 cage match with punches and kicks flying, but the only guy landing hits is the cop, who's systematically beaten down all 4 Dreadnoks, and they're just like lying on the ground. The cop slowly transforms into Zartan. The Dreadnoks are pissed that Zartan didn't reveal himself before entering the building and beating them senseless. Zartan's pissed because he came to check in on the status of the Thunder Machine to see if it was fully repaired, which they haven't even started touching it yet. Zartan is also complaining about the possible restructuring of Cobra operations and how this mission is supposed to be top secret, but the Dreadnoks don't really give a shit because they haven't been fed yet. Priorities, people, food here. We cut to Cobra Commander on top of a tank, on the phone with Zartan. Cobra Commander is baffled that Zartan is putting a requisition for chocolate-covered donuts and grape soda, because apparently even terrorist organizations have to deal with really weird expense reports. Cobra Commander just brushes it off and tells Zartan he'll get someone to take care of it because he has more pressing things to worry about. Those more pressing things involve moving all the Cobra equipment into an abandoned wax museum. Billy is a little pissed because he's freaking out over the transfer of the mind-wiping scanner. Dr. Mindbender confronts Billy and reminds him that the machine was created by Dr. Venom, and that he personally made all the improvements. Billy has a temper tantrum and nearly picks a fight with Destro. You can tell that the machine is definitely causing brain damage to Billy's train of thought. The Baroness hears Billy's argument and leaves the building to get some fresh air. Destro chases after her because he's still got feelings for her, and honestly, who can blame him? He tells her it's too dangerous for them to be outside because the Joes can probably find them on a satellite camera feed. Cobra Commander decides to make it a party and runs outside to find the Baroness. Apparently, he has a very important mission for her: to acquire and hand-deliver donuts and soda to the Dreadnoks. The Baroness huffs and puffs in a tantrum about having to complete what's essentially an Uber Eats delivery run. Meanwhile, we see two surfers coming out of the ocean, but they're really Joes doing reconnaissance. So now the Joes know where the new Cobra hideout is. Back at the Wax Museum, Cobra Commander is having a heart-to-heart with Snake Eyes about how he'll handle strategizing the penetration of the G.I. Joe's defenses. Snake Eyes responds by pulling out his katana and slicing off the head of a wax statue. It's here we see Scarlet's wax head flop onto the floor. Very subtle and very, very revealing. The Baroness hits the convenience store and grabs a couple cases of Fanta and a few boxes of Krispy Kremes. I love how she's still in her full leather outfit while doing grocery shopping. A couple of Joes in a Jeep some distance away see the Baroness grocery run through some binoculars. The Baroness drives away and eventually notices the Joes are on her trail. She loses them and hides behind a giant advertising billboard. And then the Joes pass the billboard. The Baroness gets this brilliant idea. Maybe I should just ram their army Jeep with my Camaro. Without hesitation, the Jeep ends up rolling off a short cliff into the water. And the Baroness gets another bright idea to get out of her car and finish the job of the two Joes with the Jeep upside down in the water. But Lady J comes up from behind as the Baroness tries to sneak attack and gets her in a chokehold. And then this cat fight gets off to a great start. Punches go back and forth for a while, and it looks like the Baroness is cleaning the floor with Lady J. But Lady J eventually knocks the Baroness unconscious. Zartan gets a bad feeling that their hideout's been compromised because the Baroness is taking abnormally too long to bring back the snacks. This is when you know when your terrorist organization depends on timely donut delivery. You know you've got problems. We jump to the Joe underground base, where the Baroness is having a temper tantrum in her cell. She decides to take the chair and destroy the CCTV camera because apparently she doesn't like being watched while she's plotting her escape. Back at the Cobra hideout, Destro was worried that the Baroness has been missing for a week. Cobra Commander's like, yeah, the Baroness is a big girl, she can handle herself. Mindbender is following Billy around like he's a lost dog because he knows Billy is up to something involving the abuse of that brainwave scanner. So we cut back to Storm Shadow breaking out of the underground Joe's base. He's confronted by Scarlet outside. But instead of bringing him back to the lockup, Scarlet throws down a bundle of clean clothes and a stack of cash, telling Storm Shadow to call her if he needs anything else that will help rescue Snake Eyes. Talk about some serious unconventional prisoner release programs here. Billy just finished getting his fix from the brainwave scanner, and Mindbender is helping him out of the machine. Mindbender is starting to notice that Billy is sounding more and more like Dr. Venom due to the adverse effects of too much exposure to the machine. In the background, we see Snake Eyes sneaking into a room and hooking himself up to the brainwave scanner because apparently everyone wants a piece of this mind-bending technology. Inside Snake Eyes' mind, we see a vision of himself on a road leading to an Asian temple. He finds dozens of dead body ninjas sprawled all over the ground. The building's on fire, and he casually walks through it like he's taking a stroll through the park. On the other end, he sees a black car racing down the highway towards him. Then we see Snake Eyes no longer in his typical black outfit, but wearing a military camouflage fatigues without his mask on. This must be like a memory flashback or something. A green car starts driving down the highway in the opposite direction and collides with the black car. We see the image of a little girl in the car through a window, screaming for help. Then the green car flips several times in the air until there's an explosion. The black car sees Snake Eyes standing on the ground and floors the gas racing towards him. Snake Eyes jumps on top of the hood and plows his sword through the roof of the driver's seat. The car comes to a rolling stop, and inside, Snake Eyes finds, hey, there's no body. There's just a sword stuck through the roof. Back to the bad guys now. We have Destro, Zartan, and the Dreadnoks at the scene where the Baroness rammed the Joes off the cliff. Destro finds the Baroness's handgun, and they realize the Joes must have her back at that hidden base in Utah. In the Baroness's cell, the Joes are replacing the CCTV cameras, while Duke and Stalker are talking about Storm Shadow's mission to get Snake Eyes back. Cobra Commander and Billy are having a heart-to-heart, and Cobra Commander questions Billy's concern about the Baroness's well-being. I mean, they really did have a relationship going on after all. Cobra blurts out to Billy that only a complete psycho like Dr. Venom would desire a relationship with the Baroness. Billy snaps back at Cobra Commander about his admiration for Dr. Venom's genius intelligence. Then Billy grabs his head in sheer pain because he knows someone is using the brainwave scanner. Racing back to the machine, Billy sees on the display console that Snake Eyes is trying to access the shared consciousness of Dr. Venom. Billy stops Snake Eyes just in time, preventing him from ruining his plans. Mindbender enters and lets Billy know that they have intelligence that Storm Shadow has escaped the Joe's hidden base. Back at the Joe's base now, they're watching the Baroness on CCTV camera again, knowing she's up to no good. Duke asks Psycho about the Baroness's temper tantrum, and Psycho reports that a small red tab on the Baroness's uniform is missing. It was there in the previous footage before she destroyed the camera, but no one knows if it has any relevance. They sweep the room clean, and that little red tab from her uniform just isn't in the cell. It's completely gone. Cobra dispatches a truck full of bats heading to Utah, where they believe the hidden base is located. Destro, Zartan, and the Dreadnoks are on site, and using some crazy wilderness skills, they manage to locate the hidden entrance to the base. The Joes become aware that their security has been breached, the bats attack the base, and the Joes send out an air raid in response. Now, back to the Baroness. We find out that that little red tab from her uniform is actually a communication device. Snake Eyes and Billy are en route to New York because Storm Shadow has a secret lair there, and Billy wants to give Storm Shadow a little surprise. The Joes discover that that little red tab isn't just a communication transmitter, but that the Baroness has somehow connected it to their electrical system. The device is running searches in the Joes database and transferring all the information back to Cobra Command. Talk about the ultimate data breach here. From the chopper, Billy and Snake Eyes see Storm Shadow on top of a high-rise building. Storm Shadow throws a sword right at the helicopter, destroying its tail rotor, and the helicopter starts to lose control. Snake Eyes jumps onto the building, and both Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow go at it with their swords. The chopper then crashes onto the building, knocking both of them off. Back at the Joe headquarters, Cobra has entered the base, and the bats are going full throttle while the Joes have subdued Zartan and the Dreadnoks on top of the base. As both Storm Shadow and Snake Eyes are plummeting off the building, Storm Shadow grabs Snake Eyes' head with both of his hands and applies some ninja technique called Arashikage mindset. Suddenly, they're both inside Snake Eyes' mind, where Storm Shadow flicks the switch and ends the brainwashing from the brainwave scanner. Out of Snake Eyes' mind, with one hand, he grabs a light post, and with the other hand, he grabs Storm Shadow, saving both their lives. They both land safely onto the ground, holster their swords, and walk off together like nothing happened. Complete badasses here. Back to the Joe base, they clean up the mess from the attack. There's still a Cobra Rattler in the sky, so the battle isn't completely over yet. It looks like it's about to do a flyby and drop a bomb on Joe headquarters, but the Joes blow up the Rattler. Billy is hanging off the helicopter that crashed onto the building. Here we hear a monologue about Billy really isn't Billy. He's Billy's body, but with the full consciousness of Dr. Venom. People are racing out of the building, but Storm Shadow and Snake Eyes are fighting their way through the crowd to get back into the rooftop. They race up nearly to the top where they can see Billy hanging off a cable from the chopper. Billy loses his grip and starts to fall. Storm Shadow dives out the window to save Billy, and Billy kindly returns the favor with a few rounds from his handgun, clipping Storm Shadow in the shoulder. Now they're both tumbling out of the sky arm in arm when Snake Eye comes flying out the window holding a long electrical cable. He managed to grab Storm Shadow, who's also holding onto Billy. Now, all three of them end up swinging through a window of the same building several floors lower, where they get into a fist fight and eventually knock Billy unconscious. Finally, we cut to a scene where Storm Shadow and Snake Eyes bring Billy back to the closest available brainwave scanner. They're doing everything in their power to remove Dr. Venom from Billy's mind. We can see a scene of them on the docks and a ferryman coming in his gondola to take Dr. Venom's consciousness away.
They told us not to ask questions. They said the files were corrupted, the intel classified, the case closed. But we kept digging. Welcome to Black Box Theories. Where the facts don't add up, the coincidences aren't random, and the truth? Buried under layers of denial. Strap in, agent. You're not supposed to hear this. Theory number 1. The Manchurian snake eyes. Classification: highly probable. The brainwashing of Snake Eyes represents more than simple mind control. It's a systematic deconstruction of everything that makes him the perfect soldier. The psychological programming specifically targets his loyalty bonds and tactical knowledge, turning his greatest strengths into weapons against his former team. This suggests Cobra has developed psychological warfare techniques that could theoretically work on any Joe operative. Theory number 2. Storm Shadow's long game. Classification: speculative. Storm Shadow's alliance with Joe might not be entirely about redemption. It could be part of a longer strategy to understand Joe operations from the inside. His ninja training includes deception as a core skill, and his intimate knowledge of Snake Eyes makes him the perfect candidate to either help or exploit the brainwashing situation. The timing of his defection coinciding with Snake Eyes' capture seems too convenient. Theory number 3. The Pit Compromise. Classification: tactical assessment. The return to the classic Pit headquarters, while symbolically important, represents a strategic vulnerability that Cobra has likely been planning to exploit for years. Every former Joe who knows the base layout, every contractor who worked on construction, every supply run creates potential intelligence leaks. The base that represents their greatest strength could become their ultimate trap. Theory number 4. Destro's power play. Classification: probable. Destro's actions throughout this volume suggest he's positioning himself to eventually overthrow Cobra Commander entirely. His technological superiority combined with his relationship with the Baroness gives him multiple power bases within Cobra's structure. The weapons and resources he provides could be designed with hidden fail-safes that serve his ultimate agenda. Theory number 5. The Serpent Syndicate. Classification: developing. The coordination between Cobra's various factions indicates a level of strategic planning that goes beyond Cobra Commander's typical schemes. There may be a shadow organization within Cobra that's pulling strings, using the commander as a figurehead while implementing long-term strategies. This would explain the sophistication of operations that seem beyond the commander's usual tactical capabilities.
Character development reaches new heights in this volume, as Larry Hama masterfully explores the psychological warfare that defines G.I. Joe. The brainwashing of Snake Eyes isn't just a plot device. It's a deep dive into what happens when the person you trust most becomes your greatest enemy. Storm Shadow's transition from antagonist to reluctant ally shows Hama's skill at creating complex redemption arcs that feel earned rather than just convenient. Each character faces moments that test not just their combat skills, but their fundamental beliefs of loyalty, duty, and what it means to be a hero. S.L. Gallant's artwork elevates every panel with a perfect balance of realistic detail and dynamic action sequences. His interpretation of the Pit brings the classic Joe headquarters to life with spectacular underground vistas that feel both functional and impressive. The vehicle designs maintain the iconic G.I. Joe aesthetic while updating them for more modern sensibilities. And his character work captures the distinct personalities of each Joe and Cobra operative. Gary Erskine's ink adds depth and shadow that enhances the military atmosphere, creating panels that feel cinematic in their scope and intensity.
Some intel doesn't belong in the open. When a story gets too twisted, too dangerous, or just too damn weird, we file it under Red. This is the Red Files, classified content, high-risk statistics, and the kind of secrets you don't unsee once exposed. Proceed with caution, Agent. Red File number 1. The original Vamp returns. The classic vehicle attack multi-purpose makes its triumphant return in issue number 161, showcasing the iconic design that defined G.I. Joe vehicles. This isn't just nostalgia, it's a tactical decision that proves sometimes the original design remains the most effective solution. Red File Number 2, Ninja Psychological Warfare Storm Shadow's infiltration of Joe security without violence demonstrates advanced ninja techniques that prioritize mental manipulation over physical confrontation. His methods reveal centuries-old espionage principles adapted for modern military operations. Red File Number 3, Hiss Tank Evolution. The updated high-speed Sentry represents Cobra's technological advancement while maintaining the distinctive design elements that make it immediately recognizable. These modifications suggest Destro's influence on Cobra's vehicle development program. Red File Number 4. The Pit's Hidden Depths SL Gallant's depiction reveals previously unseen areas of the underground base, suggesting the facility is larger and more complex than originally shown. These expanded areas indicate the Joes have been preparing for larger-scale conflicts. Red File Number 6. Sky Striker vs. Rattler. The aerial dogfight showcases both vehicles at their peak performance, with Ace's piloting skills being the deciding factor in what should have been an evenly matched encounter. This engagement demonstrates how pilot expertise can overcome technological parity.
This world setting maintains the perfect balance between realistic military operations and the heightened adventure that defines G.I. Joe. Hama's writing grounds the fantastic elements in genuine military culture and procedure, making even the most outrageous scenarios feel plausible within the established universe. The return of the Pit represents more than just nostalgia. It's a statement about the Joes' core identity and their commitment to defending American values from a position of strength. The underground base serves as both a fortress and a symbol, representing the hidden guardians who protect freedom from the shadows. Thematically, this volume explores the cost of duty and the price of loyalty in ways that resonate beyond simple action-adventure. The brainwashing storyline asks difficult questions about identity and free will. If your actions are controlled by the enemy, are you still responsible for the consequences? Storm Shadow's redemption arc examines whether people can truly change their fundamental nature, or if we forever defined by our worst moments. The Baroness capture storyline reveals how personal relationships can complicate professional conflicts, showing that even in a world of clear heroes and villains, the human heart creates a shade of gray that challenges simple moral frameworks.
Welcome to Operation Smokescreen, where the lies unravel and the real story begins. These aren't just plot twists, they're strategic deceptions buried beneath the panels. Hidden motives, double crosses, and narrative ambushes, we expose them all. Classified spoilers ahead, Agent. Let's break the illusion. Smokescreen number 1, The Loyal Traitor. Storm Shadow's true allegiance is revealed through his actions rather than words, as he systematically helps the Joes while maintaining his cover as a Cobra operative. His infiltration of Joe security serves as a test of their defenses rather than an actual attack, proving his commitment to their cause while demonstrating the vulnerabilities they need to address. Smokescreen number 2, Dark Programming. Snake Eyes brainwashing is revealed to be more sophisticated than simple mind control, involving a complete reconstruction of his core loyalties and tactical thinking. The process doesn't just make him an enemy, it makes him the perfect anti-Joe weapon, using his intimate knowledge of team operations and individual weaknesses against his former brothers-in-arms. Smokescreen number 3, The Baroness Gambit. The Baroness's capture is revealed as part of a larger Cobra strategy to infiltrate Joe operations from within, using her intelligence expertise to gather information even while imprisoned. Her relationship with Destro becomes both her weakness and her strength, creating emotional leverage that both sides attempt to exploit. Smokescreen number 4, Destro's insurance policy. Destro's seemingly easy victory over the Joes is revealed to be the result of extensive planning and intelligence gathering, showing that his success comes from preparation rather than luck. His technological advantages are complemented by detailed knowledge of Joe protocols and procedures, suggesting he's been studying them far longer than anyone suspected. Smokescreen number 5, The Pit's Secret. The classic headquarters holds secrets that even longtime Joes don't fully understand, with hidden areas and capabilities that become crucial when the base comes under attack. These revelations suggest the pit was designed with contingencies that account for scenarios the current team hasn't even considered, showing the foresight of its original designers.
Within the broader context of military action comics, G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero Volume 2 stands as proof that the franchise can evolve while maintaining its core identity. Larry Hama's writing demonstrates why he remains the definitive G.I. Joe storyteller, bringing decades of experience to bear on characters and situations he helped create. The comic arrived during the period when many properties were being rebooted or reimagined for modern audiences. But Hama chose continuity over reinvention, picking up storylines that hadn't been dormant for years and advancing them in a natural, logical direction. This approach honors longtime fans while remaining accessible to newcomers. The series compares favorability to other military-themed comics like The Losers or Team Zero, but maintains a unique position by balancing realistic military elements with larger-than-life personalities and situations. Where other comics might choose gritty realism or pure fantasy, G.I. Joe finds the sweet spot between the two, creating stories that feel both grounded and exciting. The reception among fans was overwhelmingly positive, and many praising the return to classic elements while appreciating the modern storytelling techniques. This volume specifically earned praise for S.L. Gallant's work, which brought a fresh visual style to familiar characters while respecting their classic designs. The legacy of these issues extends beyond simple nostalgia, proving that well-crafted military adventure stories can find new audiences across generations.
All right, agents, intel has been gathered, dossiers reviewed, and it's time to declassify the best of the best. Welcome to the awards segment, where we spotlight the operatives, wild cards, and game-changing moments that made this mission unforgettable. Let's hand out some top secret honors.
Top Operative Award. Storm Shadow earns this honor for his complex portrayal throughout the volume, walking the razor's edge between redemption and suspicion with a masterful character development. His scenes combine action, psychology, and honor in a way that makes him simultaneously sympathetic and dangerous, proving that the best characters contain multitudes of contradictory traits that feel authentically human. Dark Horse Award. Clutch takes this recognition for his outstanding performance in the opening action sequence, proving that even secondary characters can shine when given the right moment to demonstrate their skills. His expert handling of the classic Vamp during the intense combat shows how professional competence can be just as exciting as superhuman abilities. Spyglass Sequence Award. The all-out brawl between Lady Jane and the Baroness claims the honor for the perfect combination of personal stakes and spectacular choreography. This isn't just two operatives fighting. It's a clash between different philosophies of warfare, each combatant representing their organization's values and methods in battle. That's as much about ideology as it's about victory. Volume 2 demonstrates Larry Hama's mastery of long-form storytelling and character development, building on decades of history while advancing the narrative in exciting new directions. The return to classic elements like the pit, the original vehicles feel organic rather than forced, serving story needs rather than simple nostalgia. S.L. Gallant's artwork provides the perfect visual foundation for these stories, combining detailed military realism with dynamic sequences that capture the essence of what makes G.I. Joe visually distinctive. The writing maintains the series' tradition of balancing spectacular action with character-driven drama, ensuring that the explosions and vehicle chases serve deeper than just narrative purposes. The volume's primary weakness lies in occasional pacing issues, particularly in issue 164 where the plot convenience overshadows character agency in ways that feel slightly forced. Some continuity elements require extensive knowledge of previous storylines to fully appreciate, potentially alienating newer readers despite the overall accessibility of main narratives. The brainwashing storyline, while emotively effective, relies on fairly standard mind control tropes that don't bring much innovation to familiar concepts. However, these minor issues pale in comparison to the volume's strengths, and even the weaker moments maintain the high-quality character work that defines Hama's writing. The collection perfectly serves both longtime G.I. Joe enthusiasts and military action fans looking for sophisticated storytelling that represents both genres. The reread value is exceptionally high, with multiple readings revealing new details in both artwork and dialogue that enhance appreciation and craftsmanship involved. Compared to other military-themed comics, this volume stands out superior entertainment that never talks down to its audience while maintaining the adventurous spirit that made G.I. Joe a cultural phenomenon. The series' potential remains enormous, with storylines and character developments that could sustain years of additional stories. Larry Hama and S.L. Gallant deserve recognition for each comic that honors the past while building towards an exciting adventure. This volume earns an 8.5 out of 10 for its successful balance of action, character development, and visual excellence. For anyone interested in military action comics or classic American storytelling, this trade paperback represents essential reading that showcases why G.I. Joe remains the gold standard for the genre. If this intelligence briefing helped you understand why G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero, Volume 2, represents the pinnacle of military action comics, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe for more classified comic book operations. Drop a comment below letting us know which G.I. Joe character deserved their own deep dive analysis next. And don't forget to ring that notification bell so you never miss a Top Secret Inc. briefing. Remember, Operative, in the world of comics, knowing is half the battle.